Happy 12th day of Christmas. And what, pray tell, is the Christmas gift on this 12th day as we enter the new year? Republican Congressman Louis Gohmert from Texas is leading an insurrection against current Speaker of the House, John Boehner. I could not be happier. Cut. Oh, I love this. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Da, 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 da.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
Welcome to the program, friend. We are putting this together quickly with a very distinct goal in mind. Tomorrow, there will be a vote in the House of Representatives on the new Speaker of the House, if everything goes according to schedule. And my goal, if it's even remotely possible, is to stir up enough of our viewers to write, or rather to email or to call their congressman and say, do not vote for Boehner for Speaker, period. Now, in this program, we are going to look at Boehner's treachery, his record. We will look at some of the deception, some of the laziness of Christian media and right-wing media, and we'll look at the concept of what it means to be a leader. In other words, Boehner keeps hoisting up the white flag every chance he gets to Obama. We'll discuss that. And once again, I want you to remember, GOP does not stand for God's own party, okay? The Republican Party, the GOP, is made up of human beings. And many of those human beings love the Lord. They're trying to serve the Lord in the political realm. But there's an awful lot of the members of the GOP that have turned their back on principle, turned their back to the laws of God, and have put party ahead of principle. And that, my friend, is precisely how we have gotten into this mess. So, in case you've missed the news, which I doubt you have, but just in case you have, the Republican congressman from Florida, Ted Yoho, and the Republican congressman from Texas, Louis Gohmert, have both announced that they intend to challenge John Boehner for Speaker of the House. Louis Gohmert made his announcement on Fox News Live. We're going to play a portion of that clip so that you can see just how intense Mr. Gohmert's animus is towards John Boehner.
We have enough people that say, you know what, it really is time for a change. You deceived us when you went to Obama and Pelosi to get your votes for the Cromnibus. You said you'd fight amnesty tooth and nail. You didn't. You funded it. And then you took the only hostage that Obama would like for us to shoot. It was a terrible strategy, and it follows a number of years of broken promises. It's time for a change. And a poll came out Friday saying 60% or more of Republicans in the country that voted in the last election, well, including independents that voted Republican, they want a change. They want a different speaker.
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself, although I think I would have made a little bit longer list. In fact, since I've got a TV show, let's do that list. And by the way, I think that there might be some kind of cool collusion going on behind the scenes, because last week, between Christmas and New Year's, Congressman Gohmert sat in for Sean Hannity on his radio show. And in case you didn't know it, Sean Hannity has the second most listened to radio show in America, right behind Rush Limbaugh. And to let Louis Gohmert have the mic for 3 hours was a small gift to Louis Gohmert. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Sean knew that Gohmert was thinking about it, because I heard Sean say that he hopes that someone challenges Boehner as Speaker of the House. Now, I want to take a paced, partial look at the treachery of John Boehner since he has been Speaker of the House. prior to becoming Speaker, he said that he would defund Planned Parenthood. Now, in case some of this is new to you, let me explain. The Constitution says that all spending bills, in other words, how our money is spent, our taxpayers' money, how the government spends it, that they must originate or begin with the House of Representatives. The president cannot start spending money. The Senate cannot start spending money. It has to begin, it has to start with the House of Representatives. In other words, they control the power of the purse. So our founders had the wisdom to say, you guys are going to get elected every 2 years. Every 2 years we're going to have an election, because that's the quickest and easiest way that the voters, who these elected officials allegedly represent, it's the quickest way for us to get to them and to yank them out of office if we don't like what they're doing and if we don't like the way that they're spending our money. So John Boehner, prior to becoming Speaker of the House, said that he would defund Planned Parenthood. Now, in case you did not know, Planned Parenthood is a criminal syndicate. They are involved with the protection of pedophiles. They're involved with helping keep young women in the sex slavery business. I'm talking about teenage girls who are involved in criminal acts of prostitution and pedophilia and who have so-called pimps that are running their lives. Planned Parenthood has again and again and again been involved in aborting their babies, giving them birth control, and not doing anything to report these crimes against these girls. All right, they're in collusion with the sex peddlers and not doing anything to get them out of this horrific trade. In addition to that, Planned Parenthood is the single largest killer of unborn babies in America. Over 200,000 babies a year, their lives are snuffed out and their mangled bodies discarded in a garbage disposal or in a garbage can in a Planned Parenthood facility. John Boehner said he would defund them, but when he became Speaker of the House, he raised the white flag to Obama and didn't honor his word. That alone is enough to disqualify him. But when we come back from this break, we will look at other ways, just a few, over the last 4 years of how Boehner has betrayed us and what he said he would do and why it is, like Congressman Gohmert said, it's time for a change.
You have two choices. I mean, you can try to raise your children by design, or you will raise them by default. There are no perfect parents. We're going to get it wrong sometimes. If we have a plan, we've got a better chance of getting it right in the long run.
There is something deep within the heart of every human being that longs for parental acceptance and approval. When does a boy become a man?
Get a group of guys around and ask them that question.
I don't think there's a certain age. Some men stay boys their whole life.
I would say, 16, 18 years old.
Wow, that's a good question.
When they get bar mitzvah.
Well, I think when he has a child. So I just became at 56, 56 years old.
Without the power of the Holy Spirit changing us and giving us power over our sin, we can't hope to be the dads that our kids need us to be.
When Louis Gohmert was on the Fox News channel, he referenced a poll that came out recently that said that between 25 and 30% of current Republicans who voted in the 2014 election are ready to bolt from the Republican Party. All right, Republicans and independents who voted Republican are ready to say, we're ready to leave. We're so disgusted. And I have been in Christian media since the late 1980s, in addition to doing a lot of activism and leading men and women into the culture wars. I've had the privilege of doing radio and television and writing, doing a lot of writing. I have never seen so much animosity towards the Republican Party in secular right-wing media as I have in the last 6 months. And it really warms my heart because for a long time we were out there. There's an old expression. We were a little too far out. There's an old expression. I'll tell you, then I'll get on with the show. If you're one step ahead, you're a leader. If you're 2 steps ahead, you're a prophet. If you're 3 steps ahead, you're a martyr. Or you're just a man taking a walk. It depends on which joke you have. So we were way out there ahead of the curve at different points, saying these Republican people are treacherous. By the way, in 2012, we ran a candidate, David Lewis, against John Boehner, specifically because Boehner was so treacherous. Mr. Lewis, young man, got 16% of the vote in a primary and really held Boehner's feet to the fire. I'll save more of those details for the next segment. Let's talk a little bit about a couple more areas where John Boehner has betrayed us and therefore deserves to no longer be the Speaker of the House. He spoke about time to read the bill. You may remember that the Affordable Health Care Act, Obamacare as it's known, it was rammed through. And Nancy Pelosi said, we've got to vote for it so that we can read what's in it, right? Literally, you had the entire House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi herself included, voting for a bill that they did not read. A bill that was going to fundamentally change America in healthcare, economics, insurance policies. It's almost incomprehensible whether or not companies or religious organizations would be forced to pay for drugs that murdered the unborn. It was a fundamental cataclysmic shift, and people were not given time to read the bill. Boehner said that if they were ever in control, the Republicans, that he would give people time to read critical bills such as that. Let's fast forward to just a few weeks ago, after the election, after the thrashing that Obama and the Democrats took, after Boehner had more seats in the House with the Republicans and the Senate was going to go into a very firm Republican control, what did Boehner do? He rammed the omnibus spending bill, which has now been called the Cromnibus bill, because it's full of crud. He rammed that down the throat of the Republican Party in the House of Representatives in a matter of hours. He did not give anyone the time to read the bill. He did the very thing that Nancy Pelosi did. The bill was so unpopular that he had to go to Obama and say, you've got to get on the phone and get some of your Democrat members of the House of Representatives to vote for this, because I've got an insurrection going on. I've got Republican members that won't vote for this. And so Obama and Boehner worked together to put pressure on Democrats to vote for a bill that no one had the time to read. This is treachery of the highest order, and this is why Boehner needs to be thrown out. And by the way, in that funding bill, we'll give 2 more points of the level of his treachery. Congressman King from Iowa said to Boehner, this is going back a couple of years now, he said, look, let's just defund Obamacare. Let's just take the money away. He can vote for this law. We don't have to fund it because we control the purse strings. And Boehner wouldn't let him do it. And in this go-around, what did they do? They funded Obamacare and they funded the illegal immigrant amnesty. Obama just slapped the voters in the face and said, I don't care what you do, I'm going to pave the way for amnesty for 5 million illegal aliens. The Republicans could have said, we're not going to let you fund it. We control the purse strings. You're not going to do it. And we will make sure that these people do not get a free ride to amnesty. And what did Boehner do? He put the funding of amnesty in the bill that no one got a chance to read. This is treachery. Boehner is not a man of principle. Boehner doesn't represent you and me as a Speaker of the House. He doesn't represent the Republican rank and file. He represents big money. He represents the Chamber of Commerce, who wants all of these illegal aliens to have legal work status so they can get cheap labor and not get in trouble with the federal government. He's not out for unborn babies. He's funding Planned Parenthood. He does not deserve to be the Speaker of the House. He deserves to be sent into political exile. And I hope that you'll call the number that you see on your screen and say to your representative, do not vote for Boehner. Vote for Gomer, vote for Yoho, but do not vote for Boehner. I'll be right back with a word about Christian media. Don't go away. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. You know, Americans demand more of their professional athletes and their coaching staff of professional teams and college teams for that matter. They demand more, they hold them to a higher standard than they do the politicians in office. Politicians who are setting the tone for ethics and morals, what is legal, what's illegal, what we're spending money on. I mean, think about the destruction, the ethical mayhem that is going on in America right now, and think about how much of that comes from the political and the judicial realm. People like John Boehner. If a coach doesn't produce a winning record, he's fired. If a player doesn't do what he's supposed to do in a professional sport, he's traded or he's fired, his contract is changed. God save us. We have more interest in our bread and circuses, our circuses, than we do our political leaders. And this holds true for Christian media. If I can speak from my heart, not wanting to be too unkind, but wanting to help you to have discernment, all right? You're going to watch in the coming weeks and months a significant bandwagon occur in the fundraising mail that you get in the mail and in your emails and what you watch on television. You're going to get a significant amount that begins to criticize Boehner and begins to somehow blend Obama and the Republican leadership together as one, and that you need to send your money now so that we can stand up for whatever, fill in the blank of the issue that's important to you. But there has been a marked laziness and a kind of a de facto deception from so-called Christian media that it's really abhorrent. And John Boehner, we needn't look no further than John Boehner to illustrate the point. A very large, well-known, pro-family group based in Colorado. One of their top management figures met with Boehner recently and took pictures with him and said, hey, we've told Speaker Boehner that we really expect him to defend the family, et cetera, et cetera. This is maybe 6 months ago. And I'm speaking, of course, of Focus on the Family. And it's just not the same organization as when Dr. Jim Dobson was there, all right? It's just not. So they did this, and they touted their access to Mr. Boehner after Boehner had betrayed us with the funding of Planned Parenthood, okay? And then what did Boehner do? Boehner, who has been given all these awards from various pro-life groups and been given nice coverage from various Christian media, what did Boehner do? As a key leader in the Republican Party, he gave money to 3 Republican candidates, one from Oregon, one from California, one from Massachusetts, who were all supporters of baby killing and supporters of same-gender matrimony. Okay? 2 of them, openly homosexual men in a same-gender relationship. All right? That's how Boehner treated the religious right. That's the contempt he showed for the Christian media and for Christian organizations. So if you've been listening to various Christian radio and getting Christian newsletters over the past few years, and they've been touting Boehner and showing pictures and access to Boehner or various Republicans, understand that these various Christian media outlets were involved in the deception. They were involved in the promotion of treacherous deceit, propaganda, because they wanted access to Boehner. They wanted to get photo ops. They wanted to be able to say, we're part of the inside crew. We've got a place at the table. You know, there comes a time when we don't want a place at the enemy's table. We'd sooner cut it up and use it for firewood. David wrote in Psalm 23, the Lord will prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. We don't want a place at their table. We want a table that is adorned with justice and righteousness and the grace of God. I have been a leader in the pro-life movement for 30 years. And sadly, we have not prevailed in our goal to make it a criminal act to kill an unborn baby. There's reasons why we have failed. I wrote this book, A Humble Plea, to Catholic bishops, to evangelical clergy, and to lay people, explaining where we went wrong and what we have to do to prevail. We've made this available as a PDF online for free. I encourage you to go and download your own copy. Any leader who says to us in America, I did all that I could, 9 times out of 10, they're not being honest. They're just not. I mean, what did Paul say? The writer of Hebrews said, you have not yet resisted sin to the shedding of your blood. Okay? In other words, sometimes there's a lot more that we could do. We could risk losing our job. We could risk offending people. Let me come back to the leadership point. John Boehner is not a righteous leader. He's not, when he says we did all we could to defund this or defund that, he's lying. He's not leading, he's lying. Because he allowed Obama to do exactly what Obama wanted to do without leading in opposition to what Obama did. Boehner could have said, Mr. Obama, we will not fund your amnesty. The end. We're not going to fund Planned Parenthood, who brutally murders babies and helps in a criminal enterprise against young women. We're not going to fund your illegal immigrants. We're not going to do it. And Boehner could have been a leader who planted a flag like George Washington, like Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, it would have been controversial. Yes, he would have gotten some bad press. Yes, the New York Times and the Washington Post would have screamed their lungs out. But at least he would have been leading according to principle. Instead, he raised the white flag, ran around and stood with Obama for the funding of all these things with the omnibus bill, didn't give anyone a chance to read it, and then said to Obama, you've got to get members of your party to vote for this because I don't have enough members to pass the bill, even though we control the House. That's not a leader. That's a Benedict Arnold. If he's leading anywhere, he's leading people into the enemy's camp to do Obama's bidding. Please call the number that you see on your screen. This is the switchboard of the U.S. House. Call it tomorrow morning. Write it down and make a note. I will call in the morning. and I will call my U.S. representative and say, do not vote for Boehner for Speaker of the House. If we can light up their, their switchboard, maybe we can light up their brain. Please, act.